Hi guys, welcome to this part of this video. In this video I want to start another topic that it is about why not vertebrate. Because when on social networks, on Facebook or in other places we start talking about vertical preparation, there is a lot of people doing no vertical preparation because this. So I just want to assess all the reasons that are against the use of vertical preparation. Of course, vertical preparation has a bad past, okay? Because in Italy, like in a lot of countries around the world, I've been in Hungary, for example, and they told me that 20-30 years ago, a lot of dentists were working in vertical preparation. But the problem is that at that time there was a misunderstanding of the vertical preparation protocol, and that was just a way just to remove some undercuts and put some metal crowns or something like this. After we had the so-called process of evolution of dentistry and also of dental technician, and so everything started to move around the process of shoulder, of space, and so on. But it's just something about broken and bad past. But vertical preparation, if used in a correct way, are the best prosthetic solution. So now I want just to understand, to explain what has been the evolution and the reason, because a lot of people are against vertical preparation. But especially what I want to highlight is that most of the people speaking against vertical preparation are people that never did a vertical preparation. I started working in 2001, and for 10 years I did horizontal preparation. And after this, in 2009, I started working with vertical preparations, and in 2011, more or less, I switched my practice. I don't want to say 100%, but 95% to vertical preparation. So in my hands, I have 10 years working in one way, and I was quite good doing shoulders, and 10 years working with the other technique, the verticals. So if you speak with me, I can compare 10 years of experience with one field and 10 years of experience with the other field. Is that most of the people I know speaking against vertical preparation, they just work with horizontal preparation since 20 years with zero experience on that field. So I want to highlight also something that it is the evolution of vertical preparation, because in Italy, for example, we have a school starting in the 80s, 1980, the school of Porta Mascarella with the doctors Di Febo and Carnevale. It's interesting this part of the story, because Di Febo and Carnevale are two very famous Italian dentists, and 30 years ago, when implants were not so popular like today, they were able to save teeth in the posterior area with the compromission of the furca or other kind of problems with this kind of treatment. So in their approach, the treatment was the condition, the indication for the vertical preparation were posterior teeth with periodontal problems. There was no aesthetic needs, and I will see why, also because there was a collar with metal margin, and also because, let's look at these slides. When you have this sort of abutments, it's literally impossible to do a finish line like a shoulder, because you will end up destroying completely the abutment. Because when you work on roots, because the tooth has a shape like this, when you work on roots, you are not able to eliminate the undercuts and give some more space. Also, there was another advantage, working on teeth that were periodontal, starting the preparation on the bone crest, because the protocol at the time was to do a flap, the periodontal surgery, the root resection if they were needed, and to do the preparation on the bone crest. There was already a huge reduction, and so working in this selected case, there was a lot of prosthetic space for the technician in order to perform a well-engineered, we can say, metal ceramic crown, because working in that way you have a lot of space because you do this to the abutment. Also, there was no aesthetic problems because at that time these were patients that had just two choices: to do this kind of surgery and this kind of crowns, or to remove teeth. And at the time that maybe implants were not so popular, because 80s, we have to think that it is 40 years ago, probably the other choice was to do something like a removable prosthesis. So this was the starting. But what is interesting, that it is one of the main complaints that I see about vertical preparation, is that they are dangerous from a periodontal point of view, is that we have follow-up of these cases from 40 years on patients with severe periodontal problems working with vertical preparation, and the proof of the time, that is the most important thing that we have, shows that this preparation, if correctly managed, even in patients with periodontal problems, so the worst ones, they perform in a good way and they are successful. This is one of my very first vertical preparation, 2008, I did this crown. And you see what is the problem from an aesthetic point of view. When we do a vertical preparation and we do a conventional, we can say, preparation, and with metal ceramic, we have to adjust in the cervical part for reason related to the manufacturing of the metal ceramic crown. We have to consider to have a metal ceramic crown, okay? And this is not, of course, aesthetic. Even when we are able to use the intrasulcular part of the tooth, there is always a part maybe of discolor, especially if the patient is healthy from a periodontal point of view, of discolor. And even when we are perfectly able to hide this, the result is not always the same. However, let's see this case. This case I want to show again. This is the case in 2008, the day of the delivery. And this is the same case in 2018, 10 years later. You can see that the stability of the soft tissue is perfect. There is, I don't think that we can say that this is a preparation that dangerous for periodontal reason. You see that there is a stability. This is another case. I tried also in anterior with gilding. No, gilding, it's that you do something like a golden color to the metal color. But even in this case, the problem was not so different. And also look at this photo and you see that the soft tissue over this color, even on the gold, with the gold color, is always darker. And on anterior area, this is a big problem. So the problem was that from 80s to 20s, we had the protocol that was vertical preparation, but there were aesthetic problems and there were also problem of space. The problem of space were solved working in some selected cases that were periodontally treated cases. Periodontally treated cases had two advantages. The first one is that with the normal preparation, also with the flap oven, you had a lot of space for the technician. Second, that you had no aesthetic needs. Working in the same approach in the anterior area, without invading the soft tissue too much, the space was not enough and we had a lot of problems. We had to wait 2000, 20 years ago, with the BOPT from Ignazio Loi. At the beginning of this century, you can say, Ignazio Loi started with another approach of vertical preparation. Ignazio came up with a lot of cases done with this technique, with the stunning aesthetic and stunning recalls. The difference with the previous approach was that Ignazio Loi was working on healthy teeth without periodontal problems, and he was working always using porcelain fused to metal because zirconia was still at the first years of use. but he was able to deliver a stunning aesthetic. So he was covering also anterior and patient with aesthetic needs. The vertical preparation that Ignazio was doing was a deep preparation with a protocol in which the bar, the conventional bar that was a flame, was used with a detailed approach, the toe heel approach that you will see in another video of this video course. And the approach is what we can call, and we will understand this better, the edgeless approach. Edgeless approach was that all the wall was drilled deep inside the soft tissue in order that you can see just a vertical wall. The advantage of this technique was that there was a gap between the future profile of the crown and the root that was drilled, so that there was a sort of over contour of the crown. There was a sort of over contour of the crown, so that, look, this is a case from Ignazio Loi. Look, with better ceramic crown, Ignazio Loi with this technician, Antonello Di Felice, the stunning result that they were able to obtain. But what was the secret again? Was the distance between the future emergence of the crown and the root itself. This led to a sort of over contour, and the metal ceramic collar was placed in this portion. And so it was placed in an almost horizontal, we can say, position, so that the visibility and the ability to make the dark color to the gingiva was completely different. Look, this is the emergence profile of the crowns that were made by Ignazio Loi and his technician. You can see how you can see the contour of these. You can see the contour of these crowns. Look, we have the metal border, but the metal border is placed so horizontally, almost, that the visibility, also on the model, you can see here on the top of my image, was minimal. And putting these crowns in the mouth, the aesthetic result was fantastic. The strange thing was also that these tissues with this profile were also perfectly stable. And this was something like a game changer, because in the last years, since we have started to work with shoulder preparations, a lot of people told us that we have to be careful about over contour because it was dangerous for the soft tissue. And now we have a guy doing this sort of over contoured crowns since 15 years with amazing results. So we've always not to forget the difference between protocols, ideas made by human mind, and what happens in the real world in the mouth of the patient. Because the proof of the time gave the win to Ignazio Loi in this technique. So when I did the course with Ignazio Loi in 2009, and when I came back from the course, I immediately did my first case. This was a very damaged premolar, bicuspid. You know, I have not so much photos because we are talking about 11-12 years ago, but I have the beginning photos with the isolation, where I did the Nobel Club isolation with a rubber dam. But look, the crown made with that approach after 10 years. This is 2018, 10 years ago. Look the stability of the soft tissue, look the quality of the soft tissue, and look also that there are no darkening of the gingiva. Also, around 2009, 2010, some articles about the use of zirconia and vertical preparation started to come out on scientific articles like this. A retrospective analysis of 102 zirconia single crowns with knife edge margins. Technology calcium and zirconium oxide. To simplify, being reliable thanks to the feeder edge preparation from Stefano Patroni, Giuseppe Chiodera, Paolo Ferrari, and Carlotta Canicetti. The first one also with Carlo Poggio, Riccardo Dosoni, and Carlo Ercoli. So in 2009-2010 was a perfect moment for starting vertical preparation, because we had already a good known speaker that was Ignazio Loi with great follow-ups, and also we had the beginning of the use of a new material that was easier to manage in the limited amount of space. The problem of the technique of the conventional one was that the drilling protocol was born with just one idea in mind, that was to give a lot of space for our technician, and a lot of space because we were accustomed to work with metal ceramic. So the protocol of drilling of vertical preparation alla Ignazio Loi, the preparation of the tooth was quite important. We were removing all the enamel and the good part of the dentin. So what has changed with the Tomorrow Tooth technique in 2017 is that we started to implement the concept of how much important on the long-term success is to respect the biology of the tooth, and in doing this we've understood that we have to drill as less dentin as possible, because the dentin is what we can call the bank of the long-term success of a tooth. And we can do this nowadays because we have material like zirconium, partially layered or monolithic zirconia, that allows us to do this kind of preparation. So what we have done in the last years was not adding something to the soft tissue stability or to the aesthetic of the Ignazio Loi BOPT technique, but we have added a more tooth-friendly protocol from a biomechanical point of view. And not only from a biomechanical point of view, but when we deal with a vital tooth, like in a bridge, we have a greater reduce the number of endodontic complications, because to experience the problem of a strong sensitivity to a tooth drilled with this approach, leading to the need of an endodontic treatment, is something that it is almost impossible, or something that you can count on one hand. The problem is that moving on this minimal preparation, the use of the conventional bar that was used in the sulcus, we discovered that there were a lot of geometrical problems related to an unclear finishing margin. This is the reason because we started to question the use of the flame bar, and we started using another kind of bar, and that bar at the end was the bath bar. With this protocol we can work in the conventional way, that it is the edgeless approach, in which we go deeper in the tissue and we drill a long vertical wall. This is an approach that has still nowadays its advantages, like for example, if I have to manage, for example, a very deep decay in a second class, of course the best approach is to drill till the point soft deep in the soft tissue and work with this approach in that area. Or for example, if I have to develop for a diastema a certain kind of emergence profile, is better to work with the edgeless approach. But if I have to deal with teeth that need a biomechanical reinforcement, or vital teeth where I don't want to risk endodontic treatment, we can also do a minimal preparation with this kind of approach, doing crowns with minimal thickness. So we have to understand that we have some problems in with the dental technician, because the dental technician is accustomed to work with a certain amount of space, because also he is keen to the old spaces of metal ceramic, zirconium and so on. So there is a change of mindset about these things. But this protocol gives us the end of switching with the same hand, with the same bar, between two protocols. A protocol that it is more oriented to the space, to the aesthetic, and another approach that is much more related to the biomechanics of the tooth and to avoid complications like fracture of the abutments or endodontic complication. So this is what we've bring. And we've brought this together with a lab approach, because in order to do these minimal vertical crowns with reduced thickness the conventional laboratory approach was not good enough, because vertical preparation and vertical crowns share some particular features. For example, for geometrical reason, a vertical crown has a very good seal and a very small marginal gap. But for the same reason, we have another problem. We have the flow of the cement during cementation doesn't flow so easily, so there is an accumulation of hydraulic pressure on the walls of the crown, and the risk of cracking a crown is higher. And that was the problem that we had at the beginning doing minimal vertical crowns, the cracking of the crowns. And this is why in the last years, after developing the biological concept that you have to apply in the office, we have started also developing a protocol for managing these things in the dental lab. So this is what has changed in the last years. In the last years, the need of space has changed dramatically, from the use of metal ceramic to zirconia, to partially lighted zirconia, to monolithic zirconia, and the need of aesthetics instead in the last 30-40 years has risen dramatically. So this is what has changed in the last decades, and that changed completely the use of vertical preparation. So there are some concepts that are more related to some shoulder rationality, like the space issue for PFM is correct. Of course, if you have to still work with porcelain fused to metal, you cannot use a minimally invasive vertical approach. Okay, you have to work with a protocol like the Edges one or the Ignazio Loi approach. So you have to sacrifice a bit of tissue, hard tissue, in order to get the sufficient space for doing these kind of things. The concept of the overcontour and its relation with the periodontal status, for example, it's something that it is related to the bad use in the past of vertical preparation. But Ignazio Loi has been the first to show us that a correct management, a clean one, of the Mendes profile gives excellent and outstanding relation. Another problem is that when we do a shoulder, we have a detailed finish line, so there are no many communication problems with the lab. I drilled till here and you have to close your crown here. Instead, with vertical preparation, we move from a point to an area. When we have a vertical preparation, our technician can close the crown here, here, and here. And this is the reason, because at the beginning there is a sort of learning curve between the office and the lab, and both the dentist and the technician have to learn and to grow together. And a big problem is that many dentists don't want to spend enough time with their technician. Instead, if you want to follow the vertical protocol and your technician is new to the vertical protocol, you have to expect to spend some time with him in order to understand and improve things. Okay? And the bad use in the past. The bad use in the past due to the misunderstanding and the extreme simplification of the technique, but the simplification in this case leading to a sort of malpractice, we can say. These are the reasons, because also there are no schools, no universities learning vertical preparation. All the American schools, for example, are keen to the concept of horizontal preparation. And in Canada, for example, I have been there for a course, and most of the people there is working with horizontal preparation. So there is also a matter of habit, how people have been accustomed to work in their life. But the reality is that things have changed, and in the last 20 years, vertical preparation has changed the way in which you can work and the reliability that we can have, the profitability that we can have with a fast, easy and forgiving protocol is something that it's really a game changer. So I really hope that with this video course you will enjoy doing vertical preparation in the same way as I enjoy doing them, and you will do what I did, switching completely from the horizontal world to the vertical one. See you in the next videos of this video course. Bye guys.